Namaskar, welcome to this edition of National Perspective. Today I am going to discuss a very interesting topic on Pandit Deendayal ji Upadhyay, the idea of decolonization and the Kartavya Path for Amrit Kal. When Prime Minister Modi called to remove any trace of the colonial mindset, many eyebrows were raised. Rajpath turning into Kartavya Path, Prime Minister Modi giving another call for removal of entire colonial mindset is a watershed moment. For many, it is just a symbolism. But Modi articulated it as another symbol of slavery is removed. Similarly, the statue of Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose watching the magnificent sight through the India Gate, it was another history in the making. The mindset behind ruling the country should not be Raj, that is power, but Kartavya, that is duty. This was a simple message that Prime Minister Modi tried to convey. In the form of Netaji, a true leader of soldiers who fought during the First and the Second World War, also got his due place. But more importantly, if you ask me, what is happening through this process of decolonization? I believe this is a true tribute to the founder of Jan Sangh, RSS Pracharak, and the proponent of Integral Humanism, Pandit Deendayal ji Upadhyay. His ideas about Integral Humanism was the first attempt in the post-independent period, in tune with the legacy of Lokmanya Tilak, Gandhiji, Rabindranath Tagore, to actually decolonize the entire thought process about our policies, our entire functioning of the state, our framework for executing the decisions that are taken at the top level. What is so special about this entire thought process, and why do I consider Pandit Deendayal ji as the true inspiration for this entire discourse on decolonization? First of all, Deendayal ji rejected the blind imitation of either capitalism or communism and tried to bring in the true Indian or Bharatiya thought that balances between the spiritual and material, individual and social, material development and sustainability in a symbiotic relationship. In his original speech, he clearly said that the fundamental basis of Bharat's life and culture has been neglected by both the proponents of capitalism or communism. And that's why this self-neglect is the root cause of all our problems. Many who criticize and consider burning Hindutva as their lifetime project do not understand this fundamental premise of our nationhood. Deendayal ji provided a strong philosophical edifice for the complete decolonization of our socio-political, economic and institutional thinking. Prime Minister Modi is trying to turn it into reality. Decoding colonialism is very important to understand this, because the colonization process is not just about ruling somebody politically. It is a very brutal and a comprehensive process where social, psychological, economic and cultural subjugation is undertaken systematically, and that is what the British did. It was a clear-cut attack on the dignity, unity our soul, our sacredness. Systematic process of adjudicating laws, creating a new kind of education system, imposing certain theories that led to degradation of our own self-perception. And that's why we see the similar kind of perception about ourselves continued in the intellectual realm and even academic and research areas even after the independence. The functioning and the character of Luton's Delhi did not change fundamentally, and that's why we see opposition to Somnath reconstruction or Ayodhya movement being termed as communal, any reform in the education system or challenging the influence of English as a language in education or bureaucratic and judicial proceedings, it is termed as regressive. If we go to our freedom movement, the inspiration behind freedom struggle was Swadeshi and Vande Mataram. Now suddenly Vande Mataram has become communal, and talking anything about Swadeshi has become regressive. Now see the impact. Our past economic achievements, our commercial achievements, scientific endeavors, our model of prosperity, all of these things are neglected. Deendayal ji diagnosed the root cause of all these problems, and that's why I consider him the original proponent of decolonization. Now, if we go into details about his thought and the framework that he has provided, it was not a typical ideological framework. He didn't give a kind of blueprint to reach out to certain political goals. What he did, he actually provided an alternate framework where Bharat can truly chart out its own path. Bharat's Atma or Atmanirbharta can be visualized only through integral humanist framework. From freedom to decolonization is a process. We have got the freedom, but the idea of decolonization is not just limited to political independence. Over the period of time, many newly independent countries realized the larger and deepened impact of colonization. And hence, we see, especially in Africa, the term decolonization got wider acceptance. It denotes to the process of restoration of justice through cultural, psychological, and economic freedom. Original ideas, objectives, and strategies to gain that freedom is critical in ensuring decolonization. Freedom of mind, freedom of thought, coming out of that colonial impact and hangover is the first step in that direction. And therefore, the modern Rishi in the form of Deendayal ji, who initiated this process, has to be reflected if we really want to make India a truly Vishwaguru. In this Amrit Kal, if we want to restore our Rashtra Dharma, if we really want to walk on the path of Kartavya Path, then the true ideals of Bharat, where we believe that nobody should be discriminated on the basis of religion, always are true. Everyone has a right to choose his or her own path. The relationship between individual and social is not antithetical. The relationship between economic development and environmental sustainability is not opposite to each other. The talk of Atmanirbharta or vocal for local does not mean closing doors to the technology or outside ideas. We need to understand that domestic market should be strengthened on the basis of available resources and skill set Cow protection and promotion can go hand in hand with facilitation to the new technological advancements like semiconductor plants or 5G technology. This is the true ideas on the basis of which integral humanism can be recontexted. And therefore, now Deendayalji's vision has got even more relevance, but it cannot work out and lead to decolonization if it is just government-led process. We need a comprehensive thinking in our education, in our industrial policy, agricultural policy, our entire reference point to secularism and communalism. We need a very systematic churning for the entire process of decolonization. In economic and institutional realm, a lot of thinking and policy formulation is required. Such a comprehensive decolonization facilitated by the governments, undertaken by intellectuals, imbibed by the society is the need of the hour. This precisely is the reason Deendayalji provided an ideological edifice of cultural nationalism and integral humanism. Therefore, national education policy also should be seen in this light. We need a complete restructuring and fresh thinking behind our entire education process. We need to truly nationalize the intellectual space, and we need to develop our own parameters and objectives of judging our own progress. The true path of development cannot be based on either European or Chinese parameters. Technological advancement and data sovereignty are fundamental to future solutions, and we must encourage our youth to undertake research in these areas. World-class infrastructure and institutions are also necessary. While doing so, we should keep in mind that the soul of our nation, the Chiti, what Deendayalji has called, is basically rooted in the dharmic thought. Our country, our problems was his articulations. And therefore, every country has its own peculiar historical, socio-economic process, situation, context, and therefore we need to find our own solutions based on that context. That is the entire idea about integral humanism. Even though the basic organic activity is the same in all human beings, the drugs which may be helpful in England may not prove equally helpful in India. Diseases depend upon the climate, water, dietary habits, heredity, and therefore, as Deendayalji says, though the external symptoms may look the same, we need to find cure for each individual as per his or her persona. And therefore, he actually invokes the Ayurvedic thought that for the disease of each place, a remedy suitable to that place must be found. Similarly, if there are social problems, there are economic problems, there are problems related to poverty inherited through colonialism, we need to find our own problems. We cannot have solutions on the basis of either European thinking or American thinking. Now, if we really want to recontextualize whatever Sanatan to the present age and adapting new, then Deendayalji has given a simple principle. In Hindi, what he said, whatever is Sanatan has to be made yuganukul as per the present context, and whatever we are taking from outside should be made deshanukul as per our own condition. And therefore, we need to find and see the substantive symbolism that is involved in this idea of name changing. Many people who actually invoke Shakespeare while asking a question, what is there in a name? forget the fundamental point that they have to name Shakespeare to ask that question. The same is true about the places, about the individuals, about the historical monuments, about the iconic roads. The approach of the ruling class has to fundamentally change to address this issue. The tormented mindset of Indians due to the colonial past has to change fundamentally, and thankfully Prime Minister Modi has taken that initiative. The process as decolonization has begun with many such initiatives, but bigger and more difficult task of erasing the colonial imprints on our polity, on our education system, addressing our social evils, even bureaucracy and judiciary, that still needs to be evolved. Government has initiated the process. Government can just be a facilitator, as Deendayalji thought. Leadership can be inspirational, but ultimately it is the society, including academia, think tanks, community leaders. They have to come together. They need to reconnect with the roots and initiate another freedom movement to intellectually and culturally decolonize ourselves. In the Amritkal, these next 25 years, if we really want to make Bharat truly Atmanirbhar, truly Vishwaguru, then the Atman or soul of Bharat must manifest itself in our national life. In each individual has a role to play in this. Our Kartavya Path starts there. And on this Kartavya Path, if we really want to walk forward, then the indigenous framework of integral humanism is the reference point. Prime Minister Modi, coming from the moorings of RSS and Deendayalji's thought of integral humanism, has started this process now to truly decolonize our minds, our intellect, our academia. This is a golden opportunity to start a larger debate and walk on our own path of Kartavya Path. I hope you like this edition of National Perspective, and I also sincerely urge that we somewhere start churning out our own ideas about decolonization in coming years. Namaskar, and thank you for watching Organiser YouTube channel.